The transfer window is exciting, but do you know what could be even more exciting? Making every player and manager a free agent so they can move to any team in the world for free. So that is exactly what I've done, and the results are not what I was expecting. I thought we'd just see the top players move to different top teams and managers like Klopp and Guardiola just swap over. Well, I was wrong. So what has happened? This is a list of the best players in the game ranked by current ability. And as you can see, by the end of the first transfer window, none of them have joined a brand new team. Until we get to Bukayo Saka, who was signed for PSG. But they've only signed 13 players. The greyed out names are fake players the game adds to a team in case their squad isn't big enough to play matches. And as you can see, they are pretty rubbish. But PSG have signed so few players, they're having to play Firmino at right wing back. You know what? His crossing, dribbling, tackling, positioning is actually not too bad. He might actually do okay in that position. But despite all of that, they are still predicted to win League One this upcoming season. And there are plenty of other strange examples out there. Man City have hired Darren Moore, the former Sheffield Wednesday manager, to be their manager. And to be fair, he has built a great squad. Playing left centre-back Josko Gvardiol at right wing could be a masterstroke. Although he had only got a left foot, so he's got to be an inverted winger or an inside forward. And his crossing isn't great, his finishing's pretty rubbish, his long shots are pretty poor as well. I don't think this will go down quite as well as Firmino at right wing back. Liverpool have hired John Askey, the current Hartlepool manager, who has only been able to attract 6 real players to the team, but some teams have actually signed full squads of players. Barcelona are one of them, but the oldest player in the starting lineup is 22 years old, and being totally honest, the only names I recognise are their 2 centre mids. Pablo Torre is actually stupidly good for 19 years old, and Elias isn't terrible for being 18 years old either. I'm sure he'll go on to have a big future. But the rest of them, I really don't know much about them. And this guy's called Lucas Roman. He's from a club in Argentina they bought for £1 million, so no wonder I've not heard of him. Although I'm not actually an oracle on football knowledge. I'm wearing today a Batistuta shirt. Before I got this shirt, I'd never heard of him. So there we go. I mean, I was 6 years old when he retired, so that kind of explains it. Sadly, this isn't a real Fiorentina shirt. It's a fake that I found in a charity shop for £2.50. Gorgeous kit though, it's so nice. Bayern Munich have made a really good managerial appointment. They've signed Mikel Arteta, although his best player is his captain Timo Kern, who at best looks pretty average. But he was just promoted from the Bayern Munich B team, who are technically a separate club from Bayern Munich. Again, all of them are really, really young apart from Timo Kern. I'm not quite sure why no one has signed the best players in the world. There is one team that I think is going to do really well and have a great shout of winning this season's Champions League, and that is AC Milan, because they've got Carlo Ancelotti in charge. He has built a really, really solid team. The front 3 is insane. The keeper is very, very good. Emre Can's in there, Teate's in there, Klosterman's in there. This could be the resurgence of Italian football to the top of Europe, unless of course Josko Gvardiol on the right wing turns out to be a Ballon d'Or contender. However, I suspect through the season, clubs will keep signing the players available on a free transfer to register in January. And that is exactly what has happened. This is the same list of the best players in the game, and now they all have clubs. Although I wasn't expecting Erling Haaland to go to Porto, Ederson has fulfilled every child's dream and signed for Brentford, and Bernardo Silva to Southampton seems ludicrous. But Southampton are genuinely on their way to building a class team. Foden, Nunez and Silva in the front 3, Chilwell and Hakimi in wing-back positions, and De Jong as their anchor in midfield. This could be a Champions League winning team in the future if they bring in some other quality players. But my favourite byproduct of this absolute madness is the Argentine side River Plate have used this opportunity to sign every single big-name Argentine player they possibly can. Messi, Lissandro and Lautaro Martinez, Alvarez, Bundia, you name it, they are now playing for River Plate. But making every single player a free agent has made the impossible happen. Tottenham Hotspur have won the Premier League title on goal difference ahead of Manchester United. Brighton have done really well, Arsenal not so much, Chelsea and Liverpool have dropped off massively, but other than that, it's not actually too different to what you would typically expect from a Premier League table. I feel like we have seen better teams than Tottenham's side, but obviously they must be playing together very well for it all to work out to win the title. Andre Silva ended up as the Premier League top goal scorer with 19 this season. I must say, Manchester United have a very decent backline and midfield, The attack to me doesn't seem quite so good. Although saying that, Felipe Anderson did pretty well, scoring 16 goals in 36 Premier League appearances. Josko did actually play 3 games at right wing and got some pretty decent average ratings there, but sadly didn't score. And Liverpool didn't really get any more players in over the rest of the season. Most of their team is padded out with regens from this season's youth intake, so a bunch of 16 and 15-year-olds playing alongside Jude Bellingham. La Liga was also won on goal difference, as Madrid, Villarreal and Barcelona all had unbeaten seasons, which is one of the most insane things I've ever seen. Real Madrid are managed by Jurgen Klopp, who's built a pretty decent team, I must say. Kimpembe and Bastoni could be the best centre-back duo we've seen so far. Villarreal's team is probably not quite as impressive, but they must work together really well to obviously get on level points with Madrid. You will never guess who won Serie A. Unless, of course, you guess Torino, because that's the team who won it. 4 points ahead of Roma and 6 points ahead of Salernitana. Obviously, you've got to be wearing a shade of orange/brown to be in the top 3 in Serie A from now on, as all 3 teams wear those colours. Torino, managed by Joachim Low, by the way, have built a pretty decent team of names that are maybe going under the radar. The front 3 is actually solid. Although I prefer Roma's team, this is a really good team, particularly with Patrick Schick and Cody Gakpo, Szoboszlai in there as well, Zuma in the backline. This is a team that I think could do very, very well. Hertha Berlin have won the Bundesliga, which was quite a surprise. I thought Bayern Munich would just sweep through it as they always do. Of course, this does mean that Mikel Arteta is still looking for his first league title as a manager. Perhaps I just don't know too much about these players, but I don't think Hertha's team is that impressive, really. But I can say the same about Bayern Munich's team. Kochu in the centre midfield is a good signing. Other than that, I can't say I know too many of these players. But often when it's outside the Premier League or Lincoln City's team, I'm not that great on players around Europe. Although looking at their current ability, they aren't very good anyway, so I'll forgive myself for not knowing them. Spare a thought though for RB Leipzig. They've been relegated in 18th place. Not a great season for them. But to bring us back to reality, PSG have won Ligue 1, although only by 3 points ahead of Monaco. In the end, they did move Firmino back to striker and play Kyle Walker at right wing back, which is probably a sensible choice. Although he did play 6 games there, got a 7.13 average rating and 2 assists, so maybe they were onto something. Also, if you're still here, make sure you drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. But with all of the chaos going on in Europe's top 5 leagues, it has opened the door for some other nations to do pretty well in Europe. Istanbul Başakşehir beat AZ from the Netherlands in the final of the Europa Conference League. Real Sociedad and Villarreal are the only 2 teams who got past the round of 16 from the traditional top 5 big leagues in Europe. Dutch side PSV Eindhoven beat Portuguese side Braga in the Europa League final, and once again we are seeing a lack of teams from the top 5 European leagues in the later stages of the tournament. And the Champions League was won by Erling Haaland's Porto as they beat AC Milan in the final. I'm actually pretty proud that I said AC Milan would win the Champions League. I was 1 place off basically. But Porto had a really good run, beating Shakhtar, Benfica, PSG and of course AC Milan. Porto have done well, adding the likes of Zinchenko to their team, Valverde to their team as well, and of course Erling Haaland, but he's only on the bench as he was injured, so actually didn't even play in that Champions League final. So maybe amongst all of this chaos, we could actually see teams from Portugal and the Netherlands becoming the best teams in all of Europe. It's a narrative that continues into season 2, as Ajax beat Porto to win the Champions League, and Porto get there again in season 3, but lose 1-0 to Arsenal, the first team from Europe's top 5 leagues to get back to a Champions League final and win it. Although looking at the match stats, Porto really did deserve it. They had the better of the chances. But Arsenal's team at this stage is absolutely stacked. There is no wonder they got to a Champions League final and went on to win it. To be fair, it does seem like there is a Premier League bias. Of the 10 best players in the game, 6 of them are currently playing in the Premier League. I'm personally a big fan of Kevin De Bruyne doing a reverse Carlos Tevez, leaving Man City to join Man United. And we spoke earlier about Southampton building a Champions League winning team. They've not won it yet, but this team is just stupidly good. I genuinely think they will win a Champions League in the next 10 seasons. But jumping to season 10, they haven't finished in the top 3 of the Premier League, which is a little bit concerning, especially how the status quo hasn't really changed other than Arsenal winning quite a few league titles. It is the same story in Spain, as Real Madrid and Barcelona are still the top 2 clubs in the country, with Atletico Madrid mostly coming in 3rd place. Serie A is a little bit more mixed up than it has been in the previous 10 years in real life, but Juventus have still won the most league titles. In Germany, Hertha Berlin have dropped off and Bayern Munich are back on top, winning 9 out of 10 titles. And in France, other than Lyon winning it in 24-25, it's been dominated by PSG. So once the dust settled after all the upheaval, it just turns out they go back to the best clubs in the world and they stay the best clubs in the world. That is also reflected in European football, as a team from Europe's top 5 leagues has won the Conference League every single season other than Istanbul Başakşehir. And Southampton did in the end win a European competition with their super team. It just doesn't appear to be the Champions League. It's the same story in the Europa League as well. PSV and Benfica outside the top 5 big leagues did win a tournament, but it has been won by the usual suspects since then. But after early wins for Porto and Ajax in the Champions League, Real Madrid have become the dominant team in the competition, winning 3 out of the last 10. No Southampton, sadly. But the first few seasons of upheaval was really interesting. We saw Liverpool and RB Leipzig drop off massively and teams like Torino win Serie A. Perhaps in future we need to put a transfer embargo in place instead. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, you will love this one where I rebuild West Ham. Check it out right now.